A very good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News here on MTV and Shakti TV. I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandara.
And I'm Rahna Farooq. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
10-year-old hacked to death in Aturugiriya. 5 dead in a landslide in Kothmale. Suspected shooter over the shooting at the Kaduwala court premises apprehended. US commends Sri Lankan government's commitment towards human rights.
A 10-year-old boy was hacked to death in a house in Kapragoda area in Panagoda, Aturugiriya.
The body of the boy was found this morning in an abandoned house 500 meters away from his home. It is said that the child was at home when his father had left this morning. The father, who returned home, had noticed that his child was missing and had searched the premises, following which he had made the discovery. The acting magistrate of Homagama carried out the magisterial inquiry this evening, and the reason for the murder has not been ascertained as yet. The office of the police media spokesperson said that investigations are underway.
The suspect, who is said to have murdered Seya Sadewumi, was taken to the Negombo hospital today.
The suspect was brought to the Negombo hospital this morning for a medical examination. The medical superintendent of the hospital, speaking to Newsfirst, said that the suspect, who was brought to the hospital under tight security, was subject to a number of medical examinations. A large group was present at the hospital premises when the CID escorted the suspect to the hospital. The suspect was arrested in Bemmulla, Gampaha recently. Police said that the suspect had already confessed to the murder.
On a tragic note, 5 persons died in a landslide in the Vedamulla area in Kothmale. Police said that the landslide took place at around 3 this afternoon. According to police, 4 houses were also damaged. Another person was reported injured in the incident.
இதெல்லாம் தண்ணி இல்லையே இதெல்லாம் ஃபுல்லா மண்ணா இருந்துச்சு இந்த ஊர் ஃபுல்லாவே கேஸ் தான் இந்த கல்லுக்கு மேல தானே இருக்கு അങ്ങനെ இல்ல இங்கன பெரிய வீடு ஒண்ணே இது இந்த
The individual who allegedly opened fire at a suspect at the Kaduwala Magistrate Court premises was arrested today.
Arunadamit Udyanga, alias Samyan, was shot in the premises of the Kaduwala Magistrates Court on Wednesday. An individual known as Chaminda Sandamal, alias Chami, was arrested in connection with the incident today. The suspect was arrested in the Galakola village in Dompe, and police said that they recovered a firearm that was in the possession of the suspect. Newsfirst made inquiries from the Commissioner General of Prisons as to how a suspect being taken to court could be shot at in such a manner.
The suspect had come out from one of the courtrooms and then only shot the victims as he was climbing the steps to the courthouse. Our officers were carrying firearms at the time as well. However, our officers have been trained to carefully use their firearms when wielding it in crowded places. From what we have learned, on the day of the incident, there was a large crowd at the court premises, and this is what had prevented the prison guards from shooting the suspect.
Interrogations have revealed that the suspect, Chaminda Sandamal, and the victim, Arunadamit Udyanga, had a disagreement in October 2014 while they were imprisoned. Police say that Chaminda Sandamal, who was later released from prison, was supplied with a weapon by a member of the underworld known as Angoda Lokka. 2 suspects had fled the scene after the shooting.
The suspect who was shot as he was taken to courts was taken to hospital by the prison guards. Our guards had panicked when the shooting took place. Other suspects too had helped the guards to carry the victim to the bus and transport him. In this confusion, 2 prisoners have escaped. We are now carrying out investigations into this matter.
The office of the police media spokesperson says that 2.5 kilograms of heroin was discovered from a 2-storied house down Galwetier Road in Wattala.
The raid was carried out by the Special Anti-Vice Unit after receiving a tip-off. It was evident that a person had thrown a white-coloured substance off the second-floor window after noticing the arrival of the officers. The office of the police media spokesperson said that 5 persons were arrested and that among them was a woman. 2 3-wheelers parked at the house were also taken into police custody.
Four members of the same family were killed in a tragic motor accident early this morning in the Koskandavilla junction in Athrugiriya. The victims were the mother, a son, a daughter and the daughter's 8-year-old child.
The accident took place at 5 this morning when a bus travelling from Malabay to Athrugiriya collided with a 3-wheeler travelling in the opposite direction. According to eyewitness accounts, 5 persons were travelling in the 3-wheeler at the time of the accident.
The child was under the bus. There were 2 women as well. However, they were trapped under the tyre.
4 persons succumbed to their injuries upon admission to the Homagama and Thalangam hospitals, while the driver of the 3-wheeler continues to receive treatment at the National Hospital.
They were going to the hospital. We got to know of this tragedy in the morning. After inquiry, we found out that the victims were our relatives.
According to the relatives, the victims met with the tragedy when they were going to visit the husband of deceased 60-year-old Pierre Seeley, who had been hospitalized. The driver of the private bus was arrested by the police.
On to our developing story tonight. The United States has commended Sri Lanka's commitment over the United Nations Human Rights Report. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry highlighted this fact in a statement made today.
The main sponsors of the resolution on Sri Lanka are the Republic of Macedonia, Montenegro, the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland and the United States of America, and it was tabled at the UNHRC yesterday. In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said that the resolution represents a landmark shared recognition of the critical importance of truth, justice, reparations and guarantees of non-recurrence in promoting reconciliation and ensuring an enduring peace and prosperity for all Sri Lankans. He adds that the Sri Lankan government's decision to join as a co-sponsor paves the way for all to work together to deliver the commitments reflected in the resolution. He notes that the resolution marks an important step towards a credible transitional justice process owned by Sri Lankans and with the support and involvement of the international community. John Kerry says that the resolution will help families of the missing find answers about their loved ones, and it lays out a path to provide truth, justice, reparation and guarantees of non-recurrence that the Sri Lankan people deserve, while safeguarding the reputation of those including within the military who conducted themselves with honour and professionalism. He notes that as he promised in Colombo earlier this year, the United States will remain steadfast in its commitment to walk with Sri Lanka as it takes these important but challenging steps. Making a statement in Colombo last evening, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said that Sri Lanka has decided to co-sponsor the US draft resolution.
I thought it important for my announcement to make for the whole country. I got late, so I must apologize for getting late. One of the persons responsible is also seated here, the British High Commissioner. But nevertheless, the end result has been that Sri Lanka has also co-sponsored the resolution on Sri Lanka. Our permanent representative in Geneva told me that he has handed it in, and under this we are we will no longer have to face the pressures, and the world has accepted the fact that we are building a democratic society. Our commitment to democracy has been accepted, and we will have a judicial mechanism, a Sri Lankan judicial mechanism, which will include the Office of a Special Counsel to inquire and investigate into it, and there we will certainly have the help not only of Sri Lankans but of Commonwealth and foreign judges and lawyers, but all that has to be authorized by a law in Sri Lanka. So it's all done according to and under the Sri Lankan constitution. We have also stated, and we have all agreed, that we will implement a political solution and bring in the necessary constitutional measures.
Over the past week, member states held discussions on the US draft resolution on Sri Lanka. The final draft resolution was tabled yesterday and it contained 20 proposals. What is significant in the draft resolution that was tabled was that a number of proposals have been included with regard to Sri Lanka. The draft resolution has welcomed the historic free and fair democratic elections in January and August 2015 and peaceful political transition in Sri Lanka. The draft resolution also welcomes the steps taken by the government of Sri Lanka since January 2015 to advance respect for human rights and to strengthen good governance and democratic institutions. The draft resolution recognizes the need for a process of accountability and reconciliation for violations and abuses committed by the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or the LTTE, highlighted in the OISL report. The resolution called for a credible justice process with the Sri Lankan judicial mechanism, including the Commonwealth and other foreign judges, defence lawyers and authorised prosecutors and investigators. What is notable is that the government of Sri Lanka will not be forced to comply with any of the proposals and recommendations. The language and the content of the draft resolution tabled yesterday notes that it welcomes the steps taken by the government of Sri Lanka. Earlier it was said that the steps taken by the government of Sri Lanka would be considered. It has also been proposed to review the contents of the reports by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights during the 32nd session of the UNHRC in June 2016. A complete report will be submitted at the 34th session of the UNHRC in March 2017. Moreover, Foreign Minister Mangala Samaravira chaired the Commonwealth Foreign Ministers meeting held in New York. Subsequent to the meeting, he met with the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Kamlesh Sharma, for a discussion.
Attention has been drawn towards the investigations on Avantgarde once again.
On its website, Avantgarde Maritime Services lists that it operates 3 vessels for marine security purposes. One of those vessels was the floating armoury anchored at the Galle harbour that was at the centre of much controversy. The website also speaks of a floating armoury, MV Avantgarde, maintaining a stationary position in the Red Sea, and another floating armoury, MV Seapole 1, in the Gulf of Oman. Port authorities say that the controversial floating armoury in the Galle harbour, MV Mahanura, has been released from its custody and is being considered as a common vessel. This brings about the questions: does MV Mahanura continue to operate as a floating armoury of Avantgarde, or what happened to the weapons aboard the vessel? Rakna Arakshaka Lanka Limited says that the weapons owned by them were in the floating armouries in the Red Seas and the Gulf of Oman. Making a submission before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to look into large-scale corruption and fraud, Damayanti Jayaratne, a former Additional Secretary to the Ministry of Defence, had accepted that firearms to the Rakna Arakshaka Lanka company was provided in violation of the usual legal practice. It was also revealed that 3,473 weapons had been provided to Rakna Arakshaka Lanka and only 89 of them had licenses. Rakna Arakshaka Lanka Limited also noted that of the floating armouries, only the one in the Red Sea, the MV Avantgarde, is in operation. According to the Marine Traffic website, the MV Seapole 1, listed by Avantgarde to be stationed in the Gulf of Oman, has been described as a fishing vessel. The vessel is flagged under Mongolia. If this is so, what happened to the weapons in the floating armoury of MV Seapole 1?
A special Satna program on the Avantgarde issue will be aired tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. on our sister channel, Sirasa TV.
In more local news, views were expressed at 2 meetings that suitable persons have lost their position within the cabinet of good governance.
එක්සත් ජාතික පෙරමුණේ එමට එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ
Persons like Buddhika Pathirana and several others who contested under the United National Front of the United National Party are serving as MPs. What has happened to them? MPs with majority votes are on one side, while the ethanol dealers, drug dealers, thieves, rapists and casino owners who were rejected by the people have been included into the parliament through the national list. They were given big portfolios. Persons who pull the weight are not taken on in the parade. Under good governance, injustice cannot take place. However, there are different servings taking place in the country. I will use the same to spread my power and retain it. Those who you rejected at the polls are seated with us in parliament. Some are ministers. This is not fair. This does not seem democratic.
Obtaining of public views by the Public Utilities Commission for the proposed long-term power generation plan of the Ceylon Electricity Board concluded today.
Public views were obtained for the long-term power generation plan from 2015 to 2034. The less attention drawn towards renewable energy under the proposed power general plan was also criticised.
It is not clear as to why there was a decision made to stop this at 20%. This should have been commenced more earlier. This plan is not valid when you consider the new policies that have been presented. It is clear that new 33,000 megawatt coal power plants need to be constructed. That is not mentioned in the government's policy. There has been focus on the increase in prices of fuel. However, the CEB says that their prices will not increase. The CEB has not paid attention to this matter.
The power general plan of the CEB will be made public on the 15th of next month.
The following report is of a school from Chilao where teachers sign the register and head back to their homes rather than teaching students.
In the race to select schools for their children, it appears that this school had been overlooked by the parents. Although this school has the facilities to educate children from grades 1 to 9, there are only 4 children studying here. Over the past 5 years, not a single student had been enrolled to the Bandarawatha Maradankulama Government School in Chilao. Apart from the principal, there are only 2 teachers for this entire school. When our Newsfirst correspondent visited this school to report on the situation, the teacher had gone home. The principal said that the teacher had made a note and left the school. However, this note did not indicate a time.
How do you see failure in life and how would you overcome failure?
I think I was fired 3 times, you know.
Keep trying. Always keep trying. Never stop trying.
Secret to Success. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 8:55 p.m. on MTV.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For more of the very latest, log on to www.Newsfirst.lk. For the News First team, I'm Rameshwar Bandara.
And I'm Rahna Farooq. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant night.